that
I just think this is completely untrue.
It is true. I mean, Deborah, what kind of world are you living in? Look after 7/7. Look after 7/7. Look at who was saying it was Blair's bombs, it was all Blair's fault, what kind of papers they were in. Now, in the
That's an incredibly minority view. On the contrary, in this country, I mean, we really are overgeneralizing the number of Islamicists who think this way and behave in this way.
I wasn't saying we
this
were.
This is a tiny minority of
okay,
people
right.
that generally Islamicists insist and can prove are not behaving in an Islamic way at all, and they disown them.
Fine. Yeah, you're rather missing my point. When your tiny minority plants a bomb,
my tiny minority.
The tiny minority you were mentioning, Deborah.
Who never plants bombs.
Right. The tiny minority you were mentioning, Deborah.
We don't barely have time to plant tulips.
When your tiny minority plants a bomb, the people who most...
It's not my tiny minority.
For God's sake, Deborah, when the tiny minority you referred to plants a bomb, isn't it odd that even though they represent everything the liberal left is against, the people most likely to excuse them or apologise to them come from the left rather than the right? Isn't it most odd in the case of Iran that the people most likely to turn the blind to, quite rightly, oppose military intervention in Iran, but most likely to ignore what's going on in Iran, or say, well, it's all fair enough, or say the Iranian push to the bomb is fair enough, again come from the left rather than the right.
Well, they don't necessarily. I mean, the right is just as guilty of this kind of behaviour as the left. I mean, Stephen Glover would be the first person I would expect to say this stuff, and he's certainly not of the left.
No, there are some, but isn't it, on the whole, these tend to be arguments from the left rather than from the right. CND is now openly welcoming the Iranian ambassador in and is complaining about the United Nations just trying to impose an entirely peaceful resolution on the Iranian nuclear program. And, this is different. It is different from what happened in the 20th century. In the 30s, you were most likely to see defenders of far-right movements among conservatives. There were people on the left, and I talk about them in my book, who did this. But they were a minority. Now I think the balance is the other way around. And that's what I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to explain not just the big things, not just the liberal world sort of turning their backs on Iraq after the war, but the psychology of betrayal, the psychology of people flipping over from left to right.
Yes, I mean, I'm happy to agree that does happen on the far left and has, been happening among the sort of SWP, the sort of Galloway tendency for ages. But this idea, the sort of general liberal tendency is to do this, and I really just don't see, and I'm not convinced by it in the book either.
Okay.
Let's move away from the borders. You say you want to do yourself. What are the other examples of this happening that are troubling you?
It just seems so. Sorry.
For the liberal mainstream
I'll talk about it in a minute. What you were talking about when you're saying, it's just a few trots becoming fascists. Well, it's a lot more than that. I mean, it's very hard when you don't...
Did I say that? I haven't said trot at all, I don't think.
Well, you said the SWP. Sorry, I was paraphrasing you, Deborah. The SWP going off the Islamist far right. Certainly after the 7/7 bombs, we listened to the BBC. I mean, it just seems so commonplace. They were just gasping with people were just gasping with disbelief if you said there was a bit more to Islamism than a dislike of British foreign policy. I would say, I keep going back to the original basis for why I think something's gone wrong, that the best thing about the 20th century left, and God knows it did some terrible things, But the best side of it was this idea of fraternity, was this idea that if you were a socialist in Paddington, you would at least talk to socialists in Iran, or if you were a feminist in Paddington, you would talk to feminists in Iran. And you don't necessarily agree with them, but at least talk to them and treat them as equals. And I do not see a great deal of that happening. And here's why it's mainstream. There's I'm not allowed to tell the name of the school. There's a school where a sort of Hizb ut-Tahrir campaign or somewhere to allow a schoolgirl, 12-year-old girl, to wear effectively full veil. That is being her case in the High Court is being funded by legal aid to the tune of hundreds of thousands of pounds. There are Muslims in the home counties who are desperately trying to raise money, because the school can't afford to fight it, for secular-minded Muslims, for the school to fight the case. And that is not, in Britain, a great liberal cause, or so we should be helping out, we should be making a great fuss about this, or what have you. That's leading on more from the death of the idea of socialism, more into the relativism, the cultural relativism, which I think cripples a lot of liberal thought at the moment. But again, all kinds of things which 30 years ago, or even at the time of Satanic Verses, you could imagine, people I could imagine screaming their heads off about and making a big fuss. There isn't a fuss about it now. So that's, I'm trying to explain that as well.
Well, there are various points to make about this. One is that you don't have to be a secular-minded Muslim to oppose the niqab or the veil for school children at all. Even among quite devout Muslims, there is a rejection of the niqab, which people feel is not part of Quranic teaching, not part of...
But my point is, isn't it interesting that if you prefer anti-Wahhabi Muslims to secular-minded, whatever you want to phrase it, isn't it interesting that there isn't more of a fuss about this among the liberal broadcasters and among the liberal journalists? And I'm not particularly attacking broadcasters or journalists, it's just that's where the evidence is. I mean, that's the thing, if you're writing a book, you have to go for liberal intelligentsia, if you prefer, liberal intellectuals. What I'm trying to explain from going from the 60s through to the present is how that's happened. What are the ideas that have ended up on there?
Isn't it strange that the right isn't either? I mean, why are these problems and difficulties that this part of the British community has in assimilation and integration, and the ways in which quite often, I mean, we've had more than once young girls, young schoolgirls, very young men are being groomed to be involved in these rather nasty and dangerous set cases. Why isn't everybody concerned about that?
Well, oh dear.
In the liberal West, where all of us support freedom and democracy, we should all be concerned about that.
Indeed. I think Britain's got particular problems. I mean, I think, first of all, a good thing about Britain is we always were a multicultural society. Britain has never had the sort of modern revolution, the unitary state. The Union of England and Scotland. Scotland's got a separate legal system, tolerance, all of that. I mean, British people, for good reasons, are uncomfortable about criticising, interfering with other people's lifestyles too much. Outside Northern Ireland, of course. Whereas a French secularists from the Republican tradition have no problems about this at all. Like I said, we're going to ban all religious symbols from school. The schools are the state is secular. We're not going to do that. So there's that. That's a part of it. That's a good side of Britain, but a side that's a bit dangerous. I think fear plays a part. I mean, you shouldn't underestimate fear. I'm always very struck that satirists will pound the Catholic Church, but bit careful with Islam, because there's a